this game, too, is a must-win for the Celtics?
I'm going to say no. And I know and the word must-win is every playoff game is a must-win to a certain extent. In a short time here, I'm going to go fly to Boston, and I will join my 7th series covering the Celtics over the last 2 years. And in my 20 years, this is all the teams that I've covered, all the championship level teams I've covered. I've been very fortunate to have a long career doing this. I've never experienced a team like this, Jay. They don't handle games where they have advantages well. They just lose them. I believe they've had 10 home losses in the playoffs in the last 2 years. They played 7 series. They've got 10 losses at home. They are 3-0 in road elimination games. I said this last week. Players, Hall of Fame players, play 15, 18 years and don't win 3 road elimination games in their careers. They've done it in a playoff in a playoff and a half. And this is the thing. So, like, yes, I want to walk the line here of not disrespecting the Heat, because that's not the impression I want to give. But I just want to say that this is who the Celtics are. So yesterday's game 1, I was finishing up my time in France, being with Victor Wembanyama. And so I didn't get to watch game 1 live. It was through the middle of the night. And I woke up yesterday at 6 in the morning, and I said, okay, let's see who won game 1. And I see 123-118 Miami. And I go, okay, that sounds right. And I moved on with my day, because I know that the Celtics lose games like this. I know that they get behind. Now, coming back from 0-2 down, going on the road, like that would be historic level stuff. But I am absolutely not surprised at all about the Celtics being in this position. I'm not surprised at all that they would lose a game where they were the better team 3 out of 4 quarters. I'm not surprised at all that you see Jayson Tatum score 51 points in a game 7 on one day, and a couple of days later not take a shot in the fourth quarter. This is who they are. It is probably why they lost last year, and it might even end up being why they don't win this year. But they have, in my view, the most talented team left. And if they lose, it will almost certainly be a combination not only of their opponent, but of their inability to retain their focus. And you can break down this game, and I certainly did, and I certainly watched, some of the possessions that where Miami was able to get stops, and watch what Jimmy Butler was doing on him and how they brought help and things like that. Like, they're definitely, Eric Spoelstra is playing a strategy game that will give the Heat an opportunity. But some of this is just the Celticsing. And so this is who I've come to expect from them. I'm telling you something. I'm going to say right now, I don't care if they win by 45 points tonight. My feeling on where they are as a team is not going to change. And I would feel that way almost if they lost by 20. Welcome to the Celtics experience.
Christine, I just now have realized the similarities between Brian Windhorst and Jayson Tatum. I can't believe I'm about to say this. I don't think this comparison has ever been done before in the history of sports.
Don't think so
okay?
either.
Ever.
I would agree.
I'm waiting to hear
Jayson Tatum, after they won Game 7, he had 51 points, the most points ever scored in a Game 7 in NBA history. Said, humbly, I'm the best player in the world. I think of myself as the best player in the world. Wendy, just on national TV, just like, humbly, I was on my way back from Paris.
Yeah.
And I wish I can go to Paris in the middle of the season. I mean, Wendy, can I get the phone call next time to go to Paris with you?
Wasn't it, Wendy?
I mean,
if you want to go
2:30 in the morning, you popping bottles of Victor Wembanyama.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you can do it.
Exactly.
I mean, you're popping bottles of Victor Wembanyama.
I will say, Jay, I am a little upset because Wendy brought baguettes to get up, and he brought us nothing. So that
Where's
is
my baguettes, Wendy?
Yeah, it's fine.
Where am I?
They're in your locker.
Great, I'll make sure to have those when I come back. There's a tendency for me to agree with you here, Wendy. There is something that just keeps kind of repeating itself in my brain from Coach K and Greg Popovich, where they talk about championship teams have championship habits. Now, if you're telling me that the habit is that in closeout games they're 3-0, that's a great habit to have. But habits that I apply to championship teams, which is what I think hindered this team last year, is a consistency of effort. No one questions the Boston Celtics' talent. Their talent is off the charts. What you question is their ability to have a sense of urgency every single game, and why that has not become the habit of this team. Now, last year they had the excuse their first time on that stage, right? On the NBA Finals stage, and they were going against a veteran team that you would think this entire offseason it was about how do we elevate what our habits were that led us to this point? And here I find myself asking a lot of questions about the habits of this team. Now, does this mean they can't win it? No. But it sure as hell makes me wonder, if they have the best odds to win it, because I know what I'm going to get each and every night from the Miami Heat. I know that they are going to lead with Jimmy Butler and in the trenches type of style to play. I know what I'm going to get from guys like Gabe Vincent. Let me repeat myself on national TV, Wendy. I know what I'm going to get from guys like Gabe Vincent. Think about that. I don't know what I'm going to get from Jayson Tatum. I don't know what I'm going to get from Marcus Smart, the 2022 Defensive Player of the Year. I don't know what I'm going to get from Jaylen Brown when it comes time to close games. I don't know what I'm going to get from Joe Mazzulla as it relates to using challenges and using timeouts. He didn't call a timeout the complete third quarter when they scored 46 points. So I think a lot of these unknowns versus the knowns of the Miami Heat lead me to think, in order for the Boston Celtics to find the right runway, to build those habits, and just when you think they had it, coming off Game 6 and Game 7, all of a sudden they lose you again. I think defending home court is a thing psychologically for them. The fact that we're talking about the defending Eastern Conference champions being 500 at home in the playoffs is staggering to me. That should be a major advantage for this team.
One thing I'll say about the Heat, they're a high variance three-point shooting team. They can go up and down, and that's a window of opportunity for the Celtics. Having said that, they've mostly been up in the playoffs. They've mostly made their threes. So we'll see if they can do that tonight. If they can have another great three-point shooting night tonight, they'll have a hammerlock.
What is the inconsistency in Boston caused by? Do you think it's youth? Is it mental? Is it just inexperience? Why are they so up and down?
Well, it's not youth. This team has been together for, 6 years now?
Right.
I mean, granted, there have been some different pieces here and there. So it's not about being inexperienced. I think it's more of a mental thing. And as much as we get into debates about who's the better player, Jaylen Brown or Jayson Tatum, this team really goes in the direction that Jayson Tatum goes, Wendy.
I can go, Christine, I can go right down the line here. Jaylen Brown goes through periods where he can't dribble the ball. Mm-hmm. Like he literally, at times, I think he's trying to give the ball to the opponent. Jayson Tatum struggles between trying to decide whether to shoot, to drive, or to play make. Sometimes he gets frozen. Marcus Smart gets stuck in times where he just wants to shoot and not distribute, which is he's the best distributor on the team. I can go down the line. All of them have flaws that come out that end up costing the team games. But on the other side, they all have things that they can do that help them win games. That's why Celtics games are highly, highly entertaining.
But Wendy, if you're Jayson Tatum, it is inexcusable for a player who just had 51 in a Game 7 at home to come out against a team that you met 3 out of the past 4 years to have 4 shots in the second half.
Also inexcusable to not call a timeout in the third quarter because you called the extra timeout in the first quarter. So we can go right down the line on the way the Celtics roll.
I hear you.
Who's more important to the Celtics to win Game 2? Is it Tatum or Brown?
Oh, it's Jayson Tatum. It's Jayson Tatum. This is all on Jayson Tatum. Christine, you cannot come out and say, humbly speaking, I'm one of the best players in the world. Mm-hmm. And you follow up with a 51-point wing dinner, and I get it. It looked delicious the way that you did it in Game 7 against Philly. But now all of a sudden you're going against Jimmy Butler, and you have the better team. Like, you have the better roster. You have the better pieces. You have guys that are coming in off your bench like Malcolm Brogdon, Derek White, Grant Williams. You have zero excuses not only to get through this series and win this game, but you have zero excuses not to be hanging another banner this season in that garden down there in the Beantown. Period. This here is solely on Jayson Tatum. And I know people is going to say, oh, Perky's young. You got to give him a pass. He still got, nah. He done been to multiple conference finals. He went to the NBA finals. He talked about how miserable he was after the finals performance he put on. He has zero excuses. It's not just about this game. It's not just about this series. It's about completing the mission.
Big Perk, I so agree with you. This is what Coach K would do in a moment like this. What is Jayson Tatum's number on his jersey, Big Perk? It's the number 0.
0.
And you just said zero excuses. So on top of his locker, when it says Jayson Tatum, 0, on a piece of paper, I'm taping excuses next to 0. Because that's all I care about. That's all that matters. And I love Big Perk. I love me some Jaylen Brown, man. I think Jaylen Brown is a dog. He's not a labradoodle like he called me. He's a pit, right? Like, he's a Roddy, okay? It's fine. You call me a labradoodle on national TV. That's fine. I don't
said
shed,
you
though.
sounded like one.
I don't shed, though. I don't shed, but that's fine. That's another story for another day. All I'm saying, though, is, look, man, Perk, I'm watching the game, and I'm thinking to myself, finally, yes, this is what I'm talking about, JT. Come into your own. Like, you had 16 in the fourth in game 6. You turned it around, 51. So if anything, my mindset, like, and on that day before, I'm reading, I'm like, oh, man, Al Horford's stopping practice. And Al Horford's telling them practice before they're about to play the Miami Heat that he feels like they're acting lethargic. They're being lazy. And what the hell is going on? Like, first off, why is this happening? And secondly, why is that Al Horford stopping practice? Why ain't Jayson Tatum stopping practice? Like, I need this pendulum to shift. I need the torch to be grabbed, right? And then we get to the game, and I'm sitting in the second half saying, wait, 4 shots? 4 shots in the second half? You just came off a game in which you had 51. You had 18 in the first quarter. So, look, we can get into a lot of other things. I know Wendy sat up here and we talked about Joe Mazzulla not calling a timeout in the third quarter. We talked about Marcus Smart disappearing. But once again, I go back to what you said before, Perk, for Jayson Tatum. You are number 0. Your name is now 0 excuses. At the end of the day, the great players lead their teams and get them over the hump. And when we're questioning the identity of this team, the identity starts with you, JT, because you are him. You are him.
Okay, so obviously I feel like probably everybody agrees that Jayson Tatum really needs to step up tonight and is very important for the Celtics team. But what exactly do you guys think Jaylen Brown needs to do tonight in order to help the C's get a win, Perk?
Well, he got to elevate his game as well. And in the fourth quarter, JB has been horrible when it comes down to his turnovers. He has to be reliable. We're talking about a guy that he's an all-NBA player now. Like, he's no slouch. He's one of the young superstars in the game. He got to have some accountability as well. And I think with Jaylen Brown, I watch him a lot of times, and you want him to get into his bag, right? But it comes with a responsibility as well. Just because it's your play doesn't mean it's your shot. And I think that's the next step for Jaylen Brown for as his growth is not only to be able to create for himself, which he's already capable of doing, but to be able to break down the defense, get to his spot, and get easy looks for everybody else. But he has to do that on a consistent basis without turning the ball over.
I just want him to be aggressive, Perk. I'm with you on cutting on the turnovers, too. And I will ask you this. It feels like last year I saw a lot of competitive fire between Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, and Jaylen Brown. So, Perk, you and I, when it's time, like I know you're the same way. When I feed my dog Denzel Washington, that's his name, by the way. He's a smooth brother. He's cool. You don't like that. I thought about getting another dog named Ethan Hawke. You know what I mean? Training day. I thought about it.
It's all good. I like that, though.
Yeah,
I like that.
Good name, right?
Yeah.
So, like, when I feed him, I'm like, yo, don't play with your food. Eat your food. The Boston Celtics play with their food. So what I'm trying to say, Perk, is when you see a team and you're looking at guys like Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, you're looking at Kevin Love, who's still out there putting in buckets. You're looking at all these guys and you're saying, all right, it starts with Jimmy Butler. Where's that competitive fire between Marcus Smart, Jayson Tatum, and Jaylen Brown to lock his tail up? Like, where's that at these days?
Well, I'm going to tell you, it actually don't start with Jimmy Butler. It actually starts with your coach, your head coach. We just saw in the huddle Michael Malone rallying his troops, telling them to get down and dirty. Let's get it out the mud. Jamal Murray, I don't care about the missed shots. They're going to fall. Like challenging his team. So you're going to take on the identity of your coach. So if your coach come in with a certain type of swag, like Eric Spoelstra do, because he's not afraid to address Jimmy, and Jimmy takes it and go out there and deliver on both ends, that's what happens. Like, you got to challenge those guys. You got to challenge Marcus Smart. Marcus Smart had done a hell of a job in game one for us facilitating and dropping dimes. But what was he defensively? Why wasn't he taking on ownership and going get on Jimmy Butt like back pockets? That's what I want to see. I want to see Jaylen Brown. Why is he not getting up into Caleb Martin airspace? Caleb Martin had 15 off the bench.
Of the top 5 scariest players left in the playoffs.
What's up, Big Perp? You ready to do this? Okay, Big Perp. If you're a true warrior, competition doesn't scare you. It only makes you better. Number 5, Anthony Davis. I mean, I know some people are going to ask me, JWill, why is he number 5? Because the EKG AD thing, it was a thing. It then became not a thing, but now it feels like it's a thing again. The only reason I have him number 5, I mean, my man had 23 shots in game 1 for 40 points. That was a massive performance against the first round of the Western Conference Finals. But, 40 points, 10 rebounds, to turn it around 4 or 15 per. He's a killer, but the on and off switch, we both know you got to keep that switch on all the time. That's the only reason he's number 5 on my list. Let's go to number 4, Jamal Murray. I mean, this man did his thing last night. Back-to-back 30-point games. And look, you could say he's probably the best complimentary killer in the game, right? In the game of basketball right now, just playing off of Nikola Jokic. The way they use him in the DHO action is so impressive. And that little floppy set they won, you know that Jokic carries the load, but you know the personality, the DNA of the team, that killer instinct, that Mamba mentality when it comes time to close, that's Jamal Murray. Next up, Jayson Tatum for number 3. Now, you're probably going to say, Jay, why is he number 3? 51 points in a game 7? In a game 7, the most points scored in the history of the NBA in a game 7 for Jayson Tatum, but then to have 16 points in the fourth quarter in game 6. But once again, that on and off switch, but the offensive skill set, ooh, it's nasty. It's special. When it hits its peak, it's different. Number 2, I said it yesterday, Perk. In the postseason, this postseason run, 30-plus points per game, 15-plus rebounds per game, 10 assists, averaging a triple-double, shooting over 50% from the field, over 50% from the three-point line. I said it's the best one-man offense in this postseason in the history of the NBA. You can challenge it, say whatever you want, but he's special and he's unique and he's a mountain masquerading as a man. And number 1, the guy, the scariest player, Perk, and you know who it is. Roof, roof, roof. Yeah. Those dogs down in Miami, man. It's Butler, man. I mean, you talk about being in the trenches. Come on, Perk, being in the mud.
I need you to sound more like a Rottweiler than a Labrador.
It's okay. I'll be a killer lab. I ain't built like you. That's why I'm going to be behind you in the alleyway. I'm going to be behind Butler in the alleyway, too, because we ain't losing no damn fight. If he come in the fight with me, yeah, go ahead, Jimmy. Take the first couple of blows. I'll be right behind you, ducking and weaving. Let's go. We about to win the fight. That's what Jimmy Butler is. Here's my list. AD, Jamal Murray, Jayson Tatum, Jokic, Jimmy Butler. Tell me if you got a problem, Big Perk.
I just want to know, how did you leave LeBron James off of this list?
That was my
he's
question.
nowhere. He's nowhere on this list, Jay.
I don't.
I mean, in a closeout game against the defending champs, in a game 6, he went for 39-9. He responded to Dylan Brooks calling him old. And even last night, he didn't play great, but it wasn't bad. He still had a good game, and it wasn't one of his best games. So I just don't understand. Maybe I replace Anthony Davis with LeBron James. He's been more consistent for the Lakers throughout this postseason.
Okay, but we both know that AD is the horse, though. And the team really goes the way he goes. And I will ask you the question, Perk. You tell me. You talk to a lot of guys, too. Are guys as scared of LeBron as they used to be?
A pair of lips will say anything until they actually get on the floor. I hear a lot of guys say a lot of things until you actually have to match up and you look across and you see that 6'9.5", 260 freight train that you got to go against, and then all of a sudden it's a different tone. It's, hey, bro, boy, I love you, boy. Can I get your jersey? Can I get your shoes after the game? That conversation hit a little different, don't it?
Okay. All right. So you're replacing AD with LeBron at number 5, though, right? Or are you trying to put LeBron up on the list?
No. I'm replacing Braun with I'm replacing AD with Braun.
Okay.
Okay, because he's been more consistent.
Okay.
And other than that, I really don't have a problem with your list.
Okay.
I mean, I feel like number 1 and number 2 is you can make an argument, but I keep Jimmy at number 1 and Jokic at number 2 and Tatum at number 3. And let me say this: if you do another list next week, the way that Jamal Murray is playing right now, you might have to you might have to swap Tatum and Murray.
I'm with you. And look, I hear you on the LeBron James thing, the 3-point shooting, and what I've seen in these last 2 games. You know, last night, triple-double, I get it. It just didn't feel to have the same impact on the game.
Yeah, but you want him to keep shooting.
Of course.
You want him to keep shooting.
Because what do shooters do, Perk? We shoot.
He's not a shooter. So here's another thing. Did you see how Braun defended Jokic? And it's all mentality. This is the problem that I have right now. And I know we about to dive into another conversation, but when it comes down to AD, you talked about how Jokic is guarding AD. It's a mentality, man. My thing is that, AD, I'm not telling you to guard him the entire game, but you're one of the best, if not you're one of the best defensive players in the game. Not just in this series, in the entire league. Your mentality got to be, let me get some of this. He going to have to bust my head to the white meat, but I'm going to get into some of this. I need some of this action. Not having a guy to protect you or let's put Rui on him so I could be a roamer. No, I'm going to be a roamer and I'm going to get some of this smoke.
I think we're all waiting for that, Big Perk. I think that's the question. Like, where is that inner beast consistently? Because I see it in spurts, but there's other times I see his demeanor very demure, and you're like, which one is it? And I think a lot of Laker fans are asking that.
So, Perk, you would give his A-list what, like a A-? It's pretty solid.
I'd give it an A.
Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube. For live streaming sports and premium content, subscribe to ESPN+.